Welcome to shul.com. We are here learning the laws of Shabbat. Rabbi Yonatan Nakson. It's a very easy, comprehensive guide on Sephardic halacha. We are up to section 2, Tefillat of Shabbat day. The Tefillat that you're making on the day in the morning. Eating and drinking before Shaharit on Shabbat morning. Let's say a guy goes to the late minyan. He wants to have himself a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. Maybe you want to have a brownie. Is this allowed, not allowed? Let's find out. It is prohibited to eat or drink before Shaharit any day of the week, since one may not put his needs before praying to Hashem. On Shabbat, once one has prayed, there is an additional prohibition not to eat or drink before Kiddush. Now, this is a little bit interesting. You see, before Shaharit in the morning, if you want to have yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, you can. Once you pray Shaharit, there is a problem to now have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, because now Chal alecha to make kiddush. So we're going to find out that before Shaharit you can do certain things that you cannot do even after Shaharit unless you make kiddush. These prohibitions are independent and not necessarily overlapping. As such, one must be careful to understand the difference between the two. Even though one has not yet recited kiddush, one who needs a coffee or tea in the morning in order to be able to pray with a clear head may drink coffee or tea before Shaharit. But we're going to talk about this. I went to Chabad camp as a kid. Believe it or not, my parents are Lebanese, and for some reason or another, one year, they met Rabbi Raskin out in Montreal, and they sent me to Gan Israel. It was, I think, the 6th year I had gone to a Chabad camp or a Babav camp. You could imagine, I don't know what the Lebanese parents were thinking sending me to that camp, but I ended up studying Nosach Ari, ended up learning all the customs of Chabad, which ended up helping me a lot today because we're living amongst them now, but they had an interesting custom amongst Chabad. In the morning, they would pray 9:30, 10 o'clock, but they had a custom that the Lubavitch Rebbe would allow them to have coffee and little cake before Shaharit, because you have to pray, not that you eat before you pray, but you have to pray with a little bit of a clear head. And their custom was every Shabbat we would go, and if I'm not mistaken, that year that we went with a few friends from Brooklyn. We went with Nessie Tahan, Mark Morgrabi, Elliot Romano, and they went, and Jack Moheddeb, and we went a whole group, your cousin, and we had a beautiful group, all Lebanese kids in a Chabad camp. It was one of the best years I ever went to a camp overseas, and I remember it. But what was interesting was that we ate before Shaharit on Shabbat. That was their custom. Not my custom anymore, but it was my custom. This was in Gan Israel in Montreal, but it was in the mountains.
Do you have tea while you're doing like Sukkot Zivda and things like that?
Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of this, and then we're going to get into, I don't know if we're going to go into it here, but drinking coffee or tea in shul after Baruch She'amar, which happens a lot. And Rav Musafi doesn't like it. He doesn't like the custom, and we do it. We unfortunately, we fall into this trap where we come in the morning, we start our coffee and korbanot, and then what happens? You're already going into Baruch She'amar, but you already said your shahakol, so you covered. Now the guy's having a coffee in the middle of Hallelujahs. And it happens a lot. It happens in Syrian shuls, it happens here in the Sephardic shuls that are Yerushalmi, it happens all over. Rav Musafi doesn't like it. But let's take a look. He's got a big note on this kiddush and eating before Shaharit in the morning. The Gemara Masechet Berachot 10b states that one should not eat or drink before praying Shaharit, since one should not put his own wants before praying to Hashem. Okay, that's the one of the first reasons. However, the Gemara allows one to drink water. Water was the exception. Therefore, the Shulchan Aruch in 89-3 states that drinks that are similar to water, such as coffee or tea, may be drunk before one prays Shaharit. Now, similar to water, what happens if you want to start adding milk, creamer, sugar? You want to have a frappuccino in the morning? Suddenly, that's not so similar to water anymore. That's already a full-fledged drink. In regard to drinking coffee before Shaharit, the Pri Hadash and the Mishnah Berurah in 89-22 and in Birkei Yosef 89-2 state one should refrain from putting milk and sugar into the coffee. Interesting. Since by adding milk and sugar, one makes the coffee a more satiating type of drink, which cannot be compared to regular water, as opposed to just maybe a black coffee or just a tea with water, with a hot water with a little flavor. However, many poskim debate this point and reason that this ruling was only true in the time of the Hida, Rabbeinu Chaim Yosef David Azulai, and the Mishnah Berurah over 100 years ago. The Mishnah Berurah died, I believe, in the late 20s or early 30s. he had passed away. So about 100 years ago. When it was not so common for people of all social classes to drink coffee with sugar and milk. Today, however, sugar and milk are very easily attained by all, and even very poor people will not drink coffee without milk and sugar in it. Therefore, milk and sugar are no longer considered a luxurious ingredient. Furthermore, many poskim write that aside from the health benefit of having something to drink in the morning, see the Kaf HaHaim in 89-31 who talks about this in detail, the Od Yosef Hai in the end of Parshat Beshalach and the Aruch HaShulchan in 89-23, drinking coffee or tea enables one to think more clearly and have more strength for praying. I know in the morning that if you don't have like some water or a tea, it's pretty hard to go into the tefillah in the morning just on an empty stomach.
Can I, one thing real quick? But
Yeah.
You said two different things, because first you said that if you put sugar or milk, they're already kind of changing. It's not, and the second thing was, well, because it seems like, that was for the rich who can afford that. And then now because it's like an everyday thing, it's accepted. So
Yeah, so exactly. So whenever we're learning, we're always going to present all the opinions. So you should know.
Different opinions.
Yeah, so we want to present that the standard, and we're going to go. We're not done. We still have a little bit more to go.
No.
The standard was, even amongst Faradi rabbis, not to go and add all these things into it. It was just to have the pure drink. Now, today you're going to tell me, okay, but look, I can't have my coffee without a milk. I can't have it without a sugar. These are all very common things. Why could we allow it? Because today it's a very common thing compared to when they had initially made this ruling 100 years ago. Milk was a challenge, and even to store the milk. Don't forget, we're talking before refrigerators.
Right.
Remember, this was the Chafetz Chaim. There was no refrigerators at that time. There was an ice box. So we're talking about a time where the situation changed completely. But why do I always mention what was it that they did originally? Because maybe a person wants to take upon himself to do it maybe with a little bit more attention, a little bit more of the chumrah, then you could take upon yourself on Shabbat morning. I'm not going to have it with sugar. I'm not going to go out of my way to do it. Therefore, many poskim, both Sephardic and Ashkenazim, allow one to have tea or coffee with milk and sugar before Shaharit, provided that one says Birkot Torah and Keriat Shema. So they threw in two things here, Birkot HaTorah and Keriat Shema in the morning. So a lot of times if you're waking up in the morning, you have before 8:30, Magen Avraham, you want to finish. So what would you do? Say all your Birkot HaShachar, Birkot HaTorah, say Shema Yisrael, and then have yourself your coffee. Then you covered even those poskim that wanted to be a little bit more strict. At least you said the Shema, you covered your basics, and then you have your coffee with milk.
So you can't drink before the Shema. That's what
you should not drink, according to this opinion, the coffee with tea and milk and sugar before Shaharit if you didn't say Kiryat Shema. I can tell you that a lot of times...
The whole thing or just the Shema? Like
the whole Shema. The whole Shema. It takes you 3 minutes to say Shema.
But water is okay with Shema.
Water is okay right off the bat, anything. But let's say a guy wants to have a coffee. And by the way, usually sometimes when you have your coffee, it's not a 4-minute coffee.
No, of course not.
Okay, we're going to be upfront here. A guy has a coffee in the morning. Sometimes his coffee is 20 minutes. And then what happens? He starts to read.
20 minutes is like a light day for me.
And then what happens? He starts to read a little bit. Then he asks his wife to ask him a question. Then his daughter comes to say the same thing. Next thing you know, it's 27 minutes, and he had a coffee, and he started having all conversations. So the first thing is do major obligations, deoraita, having Shema in the morning. Cover your deoraitas. Finish your Birkot HaShachar. We're learning now the Biki'im Behalacha in another class that we're doing, how it's brought down that if a person talks and does things before Birkot HaShachar, different types of kilipot, we'll call them in a nice way, negative energies, they cling on to him in the morning. They stuck to him. So the first thing you should do in the morning, get it off your chest. Say Modeh Ani, you say the Birkot HaShachar, say your Shema quickly, boom, you checked off all the boxes. Now that you checked off all the boxes, you want to have your coffee, you want to have your tea, you want to go do anything you want, you're a little bit more free.
Question. What if someone, let's say they're not able to make a minyan that day, so they're praying at home.
Yeah.
Does the same halachot apply?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. And saying Shema before the Zman in the morning, Magen Avraham, is the same thing. That would always these halachot cover themselves, even if you pray without a minyan. One must also drink it in a quiet place and not stand around with friends talking and risk missing Zman Tefillah. Another thing with coffee, what happens in all the shuls? They set up these gorgeous coffee stations. Today you have like 7 different varieties of coffee, 25 varieties of tea. They become a hub. Now suddenly the guy came in the morning, he arrived on shul on time, 8:15 in the morning, Tefillah is 8:30. He starts having his coffee, starts talking with his friend. He sees his buddy. Next thing you know, it's 8:57. They're already way past Nishmat. He's already talking and everything. So be a little bit cognizant. When we said to have the coffee, exactly, it wasn't a social meeting. Cover what your obligations are, and then leave the window so that you're doing it privately, quickly. You have your coffee. It's for your energy. And then you go and you continue your tefillah in the morning. It's very important because most people fall on this one with their friends. I'm including one of them because suddenly you have a coffee. Hey, how are you? What's up? What'd you do? Suddenly you start to talk, and it's always the busiest and the nosiest area. Go ahead.
Is this so far different from the weekday?
No, so far this is exactly the same as a weekday. So far the same. It would also stand to reason that consuming drinks that are more uncommon should be prohibited before Shaharit, such as a latte. A latte is already a different drink, which is made almost entirely of milk. For more discussions on the subject, you see Rabbi Omer and a few others. Now he brings down, or Orchot Maran states that Chama Ovadia Yosef would drink tea before Shaharit, even on Shabbat and Yom Tov, but he would also recite Birkot HaShachar beforehand. So, as a side note, you have Chama Ovadia Yosef. He also drank his tea in the morning. It's interesting, he brought down it was tea before Shaharit, but he did cover the Birkot HaShachar in the morning, and I have no doubt that he definitely covered his Shema on time. I don't even have to ask. I know that for sure. Even a person who did not recite Kiddush on Friday night may drink coffee or tea before Shaharit. Let's say somebody, for some reason or another, didn't say Kiddush on Friday night. He could still have his drinks on the morning. A woman who usually prays Shaharit and Musaf has the same status as a man in regards to the obligation of reciting Kiddush. And she may drink a coffee or tea before praying Shaharit, since the obligation of Kiddush only takes effect after one prays Shaharit. It's important that we mentioned this earlier. If she feels weak and needs to eat some mezonot food, she should have in mind to fulfill Kiddush through the beracha on the mezonot. A woman who usually does not pray Shaharit in the morning on Shabbat because she must take care of her children or whatever, also has what to rely on to drink tea or coffee before reciting Kiddush in the morning. But preferably she should recite Kiddush before eating or drinking. And that's usually what I tell my wife and my kids. If you're going to eat in the morning, make sure you have your Kiddush in the morning. I tell this to my...
You can say it as early as you want.
Yeah, Kiddush, yeah. Anytime you want. Yeah. For the women, for sure. If she's going to have a thing, right in the morning she wakes up, she can say Kiddush.
Like, I remember growing up, my mom would wake up, like oatmeal or whatever, right? Like, right there, when she wakes up, she says Kiddush.
She'll say Birkot HaShachar.
Right.
And then Kiddush. She's not let's say she's a mincha. Your mom's a mincha lady. She only prays mincha. It depends on her tefillah because ladies have to pray one tefillah a day, Sfaradim. That's their obligation.
They get the shoes?
They get the shoes.
Really?
Yeah. Now on Shabbat, it's recommended to pray Shaharit with Musaf because Musaf is a special prayer. But let's say she's not a Shaharit lady. She wakes up later. She doesn't have to know Kriyat Shema in the morning. She doesn't have to wake up on. She wants to wake up at 11 o'clock. Whatever reason. She's waking up at 11. She prays Mincha. So she wakes up. She says Birkot HaShachar. She washes her hands. She Birkot HaShachar. She says Kiddush. She can start her day. Boom. That's it, right away. She's not obligated to do all these things. She's not a man. She doesn't have all these obligations like we do. But the Kiddush, she does. A person who does not feel well and must eat before Shaharit should preferably only eat fruits or vegetables. However, if he's required to eat more than a kazait of mezonot food other than rice or of bread, he should preferably recite Kiddush on a cup of wine and drink a melo lugmav, a cheekful. After praying Musaf, he should recite Kiddush again before his regular Shabbat meal. So he would do it twice in this case.
So like a cookie would be like a...
As mezonot. Any food.
Like that's like a kazayit?
Kazait is like the size of an olive, and there's different weights in grams and volume. But in essence, any mezonot, any food that he would eat. But if let's say he's not feeling well and he wants to get covered by this way, he could, for medicinal purposes. Shaharit. It is customary on Shabbat to pray slowly and sing many parts of the tefillah in honor of the Shabbat day. That's the custom, that we pray a little bit slower. Even on Shabbat, the passages about korbanot should be recited. So if a person generally doesn't read the korbanot on Shabbat, try to come a little bit earlier. You have two sets of earlier tefillah. You have Zemirot, and then you have also the korbanot from the beginning. Usually it takes another 15-20 minutes. It's important to try to come to tefillah. I should bring down, they one time asked the Abir Yaakov, Rabbi Yaakov Abu Hatzera, is buried in Dammanhur in Egypt, and they asked him, many people would come to him all the time for prayers. Tell me, please pray that this should happen. And surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, his tefillot were always answered. And so one time, someone had the audacity to ask them, how is it that your prayers always work versus somebody else? He said, you don't believe it. You know what I do different? He goes, what? He goes, I start from page 1, and I don't get up until I finish Aleinu L'Shabeach, the last word. And I gotta ask, you don't have to answer me, how many of us can say that every day you prayed every word of Shaharit, Mincha, and Arvit? I can't say I did it every day. Maybe we missed a little bit here, you dropped a couple of things there, you said Aleinu on the way out, as Tefillat HaDerech, everything became part. Now, it's kind of funny, because when you ask the Gedolim, what's your secret? His secret was just do what the ingredients are there. The Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, they gave us all the keys. The problem is we don't use their keys. We want to use our own keys. We want to pray half the tefillah, half of the korbanot. We dropped completely the ketoret. Aleinu, who knows who said Aleinu? And it's interesting. Aleinu l'shabeach is berumo shel olam ubnei adam mizalzelim b'hem. How do I know that? They say that in every time that you do something, you need 2 witnesses, right? And where are you going to find those witnesses when you pray tefillah? Sometimes you pray tefillah, you need witnesses. What are the witnesses? The witnesses are Aleinu l'shabeach. How is it that? Because if you take the first letter of Aleinu, is ayin. You take the last one of Aleinu, is a dalit. Then you have Alken. Alken starts with ayin, and at the end, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad Dalit. So you have Ed on Aleinu, and you have Ed on Alken. 2 Edim. So every time you finish a tefillah, you get 2 witnesses. The problem is the guy is missing his Aleinu. One day he might come to the Shamayim. They're going to tell him, okay, you lived 120 years, but you didn't pray for 31 years Amidah or tefillah. Say, what do you mean I didn't pray? I prayed every morning. I assure you. They say, no, let me show you. They're going to run him the video, and then see there's no Aleinu. So what does that mean? The Aleinu was your witnesses. So don't underestimate this. There was a book that recently came out. I saw it in Israel. Whole book. Only on the sigulot of saying Aleinu L'Shabeach. Just on that one. Now, Aleinu L'Shabeach was written, who was written by? Yehoshua ben Nun. He wrote the Aleinu. But then who wrote the second part, Al-Ken? If you said Yehoshua, you were wrong. So who was it? At the time of Yehoshua, what happened? They went into the city, they went to Yericho, and Yericho was a special, unique city. What happened with Yericho? With Yericho, Hashem told them, you don't need to fight this battle. All I need you to do is every day, just go all the Jews around the city one time, make a 1 hakafah, and I want you to blow the shofar. And then on the 7th day, go around 7 times, blow the shofar, and the walls will come down by themselves. It was a complete miracle. There was no battle with Yericho. We did nothing to win this other than walk around the city and tefillot. Interestingly enough, what happened after the 7th day? Boom, the walls fell down, and Yericho had a double wall. It was an interesting city. There was one wall, there was a space, and then a secondary wall. The Navi talks about it in Yehoshua. Now, what's interesting there is once the walls fell down, everyone went in and they pillaged the whole city. But Hashem told them, you cannot take anything from this city because you didn't fight this battle. This battle was fought in the Shamayim. You didn't do any work for this. What, you think it was your artillery? You just wandered around and you sang a couple of songs, you read a couple of Tehillim or whatever it is, Tefillot you said, and it came down. You don't touch anything. Came Achan, which was very rich, and he gathered some of the spoils and he took it and he buried it. And what happened? The second battle was Ai, and in Ai they lost some soldiers. So Yehoshua, through prophecy, asked God, said, why in this city did we have a little bit of casualties? The other one was perfect. Everything went in easy. And if there's casualties, that means there was an avon. They said because somebody was stealing from the first city, the spoils, and I told you don't touch it. And so what happened? Yehoshua ben Nun didn't know who did it. He asked around, nobody wanted to admit it. So what did he do? He said, no problem, you don't want to admit? No big deal, give me 2 bowls. They brought him 2 bowls. He put in one bowl all the shevatim. He put all the 12 shevatim, he started to mix it, he said, let me see. He made a lottery, he said, here is the shevet. He pulled up one shevet, he said it was from this shevet. Boom. Then he said, give me all the families of all the shevatim, put them into the lottery. And they pulled up the Shem, it came Achan. And now, he told Achan, they were challenging him on the lottery. And they told Yehoshua, how are you going to do this with a lottery? He said, don't make fun of the lottery, because from this lottery, I'm going to give all of you guys your real estate in the land. How do you think you're going to determine who determines is going to get what piece of land? Who's going to get the coastal real estate of Netanya? Who's going to be the Dead Sea? Who's going to get the mountains of Yerushalayim? Who's going to get Harabait? That's all determined on lottery. So if you want to laugh at the lottery, this lottery is going to be done very short time in order for you to choose which home you're going to live in for the eternity of the land of Israel. So don't underestimate it. And later on, Achan, he had a little bit through questioning, he ended up admitting it. When Achan admitted it, he ended up making teshuvah. Hashem forgave him when he made the teshuvah. He ended up dying. They ended up killing him. And then he wrote a tefillah on his deathbed, you would call it. What was the tefillah? It was Al Ken Nekaveh Lach. And usually amongst the Hachamim, what do? We do what's called an acrostic. And if you look at the acrostic of Al Ken Nekaveh Lach, Rashi Tevot Achan. Al Ken Nekaveh. It's interesting. The song Ma'al Sur, we just finished Hanukkah not too long ago. Ma'al Sur is not a song that was written by the Hashmonaim or at all from the time of the Yevanim. It was a song written from the Middle Ages, and the author of Ma'al Sur, if you take the acrostic, the Rashi Tevot in there, it says Mordechai Hazak. So whoever was the author in the Middle Ages, we don't know his last name. His name was Mordechai. He also was the author of this. So don't underestimate this Aleinu de Shabbat. It is customary to recite several extra psalms on Shabbat before Baruch She'amar. It is proper to refrain from speaking about other subjects when reciting these psalms. Everyone knows my opinion. In shul, we don't talk during tefillah. So here he's talking about not saying any other words, but in the maskana, from the moment the hazan gets up until he finishes, you should not talk at all in shul. And you should even stay away from shuls that talk too much in them, because a lot of beracha comes from those that are silent during the tefillah. Don't underestimate this. It's a very big ma'ala when a person comes in the morning from the tefillah, from the beginning to the end, and he does not talk devarim betelim. Remember, we're coming here because we call this place the house of God. Remember, this is not the White House. I assure you, in the White House, or if you were in the presidential palace of Vladimir Putin, I assure you, you wouldn't say a single word if you knew Vladimir Putin was in the room. Lehavdil ben latameh latahor, that you're not going to go and do something if you believe that God is found in the presence there. So don't underestimate not talking in shul. It's a very, very big ma'ala. And the Tosfot Yom Tov, Ram Yom Tov Lipman Heller, made a special Mishe Berach of people that don't talk in the shul, that they are guaranteed to have a lot of long life. Why did it say long life? It says, O jinevun beseva deshenim mera'ananim yihiyu. What does that mean, O jinevun beseva? That they should grow old, but be vigorous, energetic, and healthy. There's a big difference between an individual who gets old and he's vigorous, young, he comes to shul, he's active, versus an old man who's in his bed, he can't move, he can't understand, he can't listen, he loses his cognitive functions. Why? Because they say seva is shitika yafa b'shat hatefillah, rashi tevot seva, and seva means old age. So don't underestimate coming to shul and not talking guarantees you long life. One who arrived late to the synagogue must skip parts of the tefillah in order to be able to recite the Amidah with the rest of the minyan. And you should first skip the extra psalms that are recited in Shabbat before Baruch She'amar. If one still does not have time, then you should skip the korbanot as well. He has a note here on the bottom. The Tur writes that on Shabbat, that one Shabbat, it is customary to add some tehillim before Pesukei Zimna, since people do not have to rush to work and can spend more time in the Beit Knesset. That's why the tefillot are a little bit longer.
What's the expression of the korbanot or the mizmorim?
No, the mizmorim. So about the mizmorim before Baruch She'amar, between Hashem Melech and Baruch She'amar on Shabbat for Sfaradim. The Levush in Siman 281 explains that the reason for reciting these chapters is because each of the chapters discusses the Shabbat and Maaseh Bereshit or Matan Torah, which occurred on Shabbat. And see also the Kaf HaHaim 281-4, who brings the Kabbalistic reasons for why we specifically recite these psalms on Shabbat. The custom in many Moroccan communities, as stated by Nahagu Ha'am, is to recite Yigdal before Baruch She'amar. We don't say this Sfaradim or Syrian, we don't, but the Moroccans have this custom of doing it. After Baruch She'amar, instead of reciting Mizmor LeTodah, the psalm of Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat is recited. One does not have to stand when reciting Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat. He brings here another note here. The Raman 51-9 explains that the Mizmor LeTodah is not recited on Shabbat because it is generally recited in the place of the Korban Todah. It's Mizmor LeTodah. We say that our prayers are connected to Korbanot, and that Korban Todah was not brought on Shabbat in the Beit HaMikdash. Okay. The Nishmat Kol Chai on Shabbat day. It is customary to recite the prayer of Nishmat Kol Chai on Shabbat before Yishtabach. The Tefillah is also brought in the Gemara Pesachim 118a and the Zohar Terumah 138a and in Vayakel 205b. The Benayahu Ben Yehoyada, that's the Ben Ishai, on Masechet Megillah 18a states that this Tefillah was composed by the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, that they wrote it. Now this is referred to in the Gemara as Birkat Hashir. See also Hazon Avadiyah, Shabbat, volume 2, page 195. Ben Ishai Toldot states that the prayer of Nishmat Kol Chai is a very lofty prayer that should be recited with singing. The Seder Hayom, Shaharit Shabbat, states that this is recited specifically on Shabbat in order to thank Hashem for the extra neshama given to us on Shabbat. So this was one opinion that is written by the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. Now I'm going to give you guys another opinion on who wrote the Nishmat Kol Chai. This is brought down by Rabbi Yitzchak Breitowitz in Or Sameach in Yerushalayim. There's actually a source. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of Jewish history. Originally, when Yeshu came about, what happened? He wanted to start a new religion. But what he did is he had amongst him many Jewish people that were his comrades, and technically he was Jewish. And so what happened? There was a problem amongst Klal Yisrael that you had these infiltrators that believed in Yeshu, who we do not believe in, and they were amongst the Jewish people in the Kahal. Came this one individual, his name was Shimon Kippah. You can look it up and you could research it. It's brought down in Machzor Vitri that he has an opinion that this guy Shimon Kippah, who was one of the first apostles of Yeshu, was the one who wrote Nishmat Kol Chai. But why is that? Why would he write Nishmat Kol Chai? So he told the Chachamim at the time, this guy Shimon Kippah, that he wants to do the rabbis a favor. He said, we got to get these people out of here. We can't have the religion of the Yahadut mixed with these people from Yeshu. So he said, look, I'm going to go and become one of the students of Yeshu, he said, and I'm going to take them all out and separate them completely from Yahadut. But I want you to do me a favor. I'm going to continue staying Jewish, but I need you to pray on my behalf that I don't lose any zechut or anything for this matter. And he took upon himself to write the Nishmat Kol Chai. And that's why they have it in the Tefillah. The Machzor Vitri, which is a student of the Rashi, brings this down, but he says that he doesn't agree that he did it, Shimon Kippah. But there are many others that do it. Now, interestingly enough, that's one of the reasons why the Hachamim write, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, they say the 8th, 9th, and the 10th day of Tevet were sad days. The 10th of Tevet, we know there was a siege around Yerushalayim. The 8th and the 9th, there's other reasons. Some say is Rahasofer passed away. And some give other reasonings that come down. We did a whole thing on it, almost 10 different reasons what happened the week of it. But if you look at the Shulchan Aruch, it says that there was a fast day and we cannot give you the reason. And many Chachamim say, what do you mean you can't give us the reason? So there's two different reasons. One says that today we're currently running under the Gregorian calendar. But back in the day, about 150 years ago, they were running under the Julian calendar. And they said that Asara B'Tevet was the day Yeshu was born. And they say because of it, we fast on that day, even if it falls out on Shabbat. You ever hear that ma'amar, if Asara B'Tevet falls out on Shabbat, you have to fast on Shabbat? Why? Because they were fasting on that day because of what he did to the religion. How much catastrophe, how many pogroms, how many Jews were killed, how many misfortunes happened because of this. But they couldn't write outwardly that they were fasting because he was born or died on that day, or even born on that day. Why? Because in the Gemara also, many times when they spoke about Yeshu, they covered it up. Because in Europe, the printing presses were generally controlled by the Christian, the Holy Roman Empire. The Pope did not allow Jewish text to be written. The first printing of the Gemara was printed by a Christian. His name was Daniel Bomberg. He was the one who actually designed the current structure of our Gemara pages. It was not done by the rabbis. It was done by him. Now, his content is... No, not the Chumash. You're talking about the Pesukim and the Perakim. The Perakim were broken...
Right, the original printings of it...
The printings, yes.
Were all...
Yeah, but I'm going to go further. The Perakim. The Perakim were well known. The Perakim are not a Jewish... It's not a Jewish division of the Torah. We have in our Torah every week a Seder. If you look at the Kaf HaChaim Palachi,
Doesn't match up.
he does not talk about parashiyot. he talks about sedarim, because in every seder of every week you have multiple parashiyot. We call them parashiyot petuchot and situmot. And in the Torah there's 669 parashiyot, not 53 or 54 parashiyot, depending on how you want to count the parashiyot. And so it's interesting to note these facts. Now,
the original Jewish Chumash printed, he added in the end, he said he did not find it until he was mostly done with the printing, but he found the Masorati, what the real prakim were, and he references what they're supposed to be, but he says he didn't find it until he was already...
No, so we're going to go further. There were no perakim. There was no chapters in the Torah. The Torah had sedarim, which you read every week, and by the way, that changed, because before Ezra HaSofer, we used to finish the Torah every 3 years. Ezra came along, and Ezra said, no, we're going to finish the Torah every year on Simchat Torah, so he redivided it up. So you had that other option. So this guy, Daniel Baumberg, he got permission in Venice. He had a printing press, and he had permission in order to print the Gemariyot, and he designed the whole Gemara structure. So many people are not well familiar with this, because if you look at any Gemara prior to the 1500s, they were only referenced by their perakim. That's what you ever look at Rashi. Rashi doesn't quote you pages. What does it do? He tells you in Perek Ezehu Mekuman. Tells you in the Perek Bameh Madlikin. Or Rabbi Eliezer de Milah. Why does he tell you by perakim? Why doesn't he tell you by dapim? There were no dapim in time of Rashi. There were only Gemariyot Masechtot and the perakim of the Masechtot. So according to one of these opinions, this guy Shimon Kippah, he ended up becoming one of the apostles of Yeshu, and he wrote this Nishmat Kol Chai. Interesting to bring down. This is just another fact. It's interesting. I don't know who it is, but this is one of them that Rabbi Brodowitz brings down. Okay. The Sephardic custom is to remain seated while reciting the Nishmat Kol Chai. And this is brought down by many of the Mikubalim, unlike the Kafa Hayim, who brings down 5623 otherwise. Let's continue. It is not permitted to bow at any point during the Nishmat Kol Chai, even when reciting Ulecha Levadecha Anachnu Modim. We say Ulecha Levadecha Anachnu Modim. We should bow. No, we don't bow. Or Vechol Koma Lefanecha Tishtachaveh. Also, we don't bow down during that. That's brought down in Shulchan Aruch 281-1. The guidelines of one who forgot to recite Nishmat are as follows. Let's say by mistake, the guy was saying Vayosha, he kept on going, he said Yishtabach Shimcha, he finished already the Tefillah. Yeah, he didn't realize, oh my God, I forgot, I didn't say Nishmat Kol Chai. What do I do now? If one has not yet recited the beginning of the concluding Beracha Yishtabach, the words Baruch Atah Hashem, and onwards, and realize that he skipped Nishmat, then he may go back and recite Nishmat. If one has already recited the Beracha, he should finish the Beracha of Yishtabach and then recite Nishmat up until the words Ume'olam va'ad olam ata el. After you said the Beracha, you continue and then go and say it. If one has already finished Yishtabach and has answered to Barechu, meaning he said it wrong, he answered Barechu, where I started the Beracha Yotzero, he should recite Nishmat after Shaharit. He doesn't have to lose the Nishmat, but he loses obviously the time of when he said it right. He says here, Halichot Olam, volume 3, page 103, in Chazon Ovadia Shabbat. Unlike the opinion of the Ben Ish Chai, Toldot 2-2, who states that one can recite Nishmat after reciting Barechu. Cham Ovadia said no. Once you say Barechu, that's it. You're in the Berachot of Shema, you can't go back and say it. The Ben Ish Chai points out that if one has already started the Beracha of Yotzer Or, he should think the words Nishmat Kol Chai Tevrech Shimcha Hashem Elokeinu without enunciating them and have in mind to accept the Neshama Yetera, because there is an inyan of getting the Neshama Yetera when you do it. The Ben Ish Chai also, if a person, let's say he went to the bathroom, he's not sure if he said Asher Yatzar. He went out, I don't know, he forgot. He went onto his phone right away, he lost his track. He didn't do it. What does the Ben Ish Chai say? Stand right where you are and say the Beracha in your mind, word by word. You think, Baruch Atah Hashem. You say with the full word in your mind. He said it has an inyan. Don't underestimate even the thinking of it. What the Ben Ish Chai brings down. Now, some communities have the custom to recite piyutim, such as during Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shabbat Shira, and Shevi'i Shel Pesach, between Baruch She'amad and Yishtabach. Preferably, this should not be done, and the piyutim should be recited only after Chazarat Hashatz, or like the Lebanese do, we do it before Baruch She'amar. Cham Shlomo Kohen in SLC, what was his custom on Yom Kippur? I prayed with him for over 20 years. We always did it before Baruch She'amar, And that way, we did it. The people who came early, they got to say all the piyutim, and then after the Amidah, they went straight into the Torah. We'll end it with this. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.